Welcome. My name is John Guinivere. I'm a graduate chef from California Culinary Academy. Anyway, so tonight I'm going to make and I'm also going to make So I'm going to get started on the pilaf first. I'm going to get my pan warm, and the first thing I want to do is saute the mushrooms. And the reason why I do that first is when you saute mushrooms and they start getting a brown color on them, the flavor really comes out. Otherwise, you don't really taste much in a mushroom until you brown them. So I just got 4 regular household mushrooms. If you want to get exotic, you can. I tend to just like these mushrooms for this kind of dish, and they're also the least expensive. And you want to use salted butter. I don't actually know of any time I've ever used unsalted butter for anything, to be honest. But this is probably half a tablespoon, and I have it on high, and we're just going to let the butter melt a little bit. And while that's starting to brown, I'm going to show you the fish I'm going to use. This is a piece of fresh cod, and as you can see, at the thickest part, it's probably almost 2 inches, maybe 1 3/4 inches. Which, if you don't know what you're doing with a piece of fish this size, it's really hard to get it right. So what I would suggest, if you buy a piece of fish that thick, is what we call butterfly. And you want a nice sharp knife. Always make sure your knife is sharp, and if you rub your thumb across the knife, you'll feel it grab your thumb, and that's how you know if it's sharp. Don't, of course, do it this way, because then you really know it's sharp. Anyway, what you want to do is put the knife right in the center and just slice across like that. And now you have 2 pieces of fish, and much more manageable as far as cooking. The thing about a thick piece of fish is you may have the outside cooked and the inside still undercooked. So I'm gonna just do a little stir of the mushrooms. They're already starting to brown, which is good. And I'm gonna add some onions to the mushrooms. This is a sweet onion. You don't have to use sweet onions, but I like sweet onions, Vidalia onions. You can use some green onions, it really doesn't matter. This is a pilaf. And so I'm just going to cut a section off, pull the skin off. Like that. If you see anything that looks like it might be tough, I'm going to cut that off. And I just want to slice, 2 nice thin slices. And you don't have to really, you'll see people cut an onion this way, but an onion is naturally divided anyway in layers, so that's not necessary. If you, sometimes it's not a bad idea to have a little wine next to you when you're doing a dish like this, because if things get too hot and start to burn, you can always use a splash of white wine as your fire extinguisher on the stove. If you have a gas stove, you'll get a nice little flame as well. So I'm just gonna now for this dish, you actually want to use a fair amount of butter when you throw the rice in, because the fat of the butter is going to keep the rice nice and moist and delicious. I'm going to tell you about a product that I use. My sister lives in Paris. This is called truffle salt. And truffle salt is salt actually flavored with truffles. Truffles are like a mushroom. They grow underground. They actually use pigs to hunt them. They feed the pig a little bit of truffle. The pig goes nuts, just loves the truffle, and then goes back out in the forest. They put a muzzle on the pig, and the pigs become truffle hunters. But anyway, this salt, it's not super cheap. It's not super expensive, but the flavor is absolutely amazing. You could use regular salt, like I said, but I think it's worth going on the internet and finding some truffle salt. Mushrooms have a really nice color to them. The onions are starting to brown as well. So this is a product I found down at Kazmier's here in Perrysburg, and this is wild rice. And if you've ever made wild rice, it usually comes in a little box. It's expensive and it takes forever to cook. This product literally comes out of the bag, cooked. You can throw it right in. Excuse me. In a couple minutes, you're ready to go. So I'm just going to open this up and go ahead and sprinkle the rice right into the pan. That's enough for now. And break that up a little bit. It's got a little bit of fat in it, but as I said, I like to add butter. I'm not going to turn it down. We don't need to brown the onions or the mushrooms anymore. And I'm going to let this sort of break apart a little bit, let it melt the fat within the package. And we're going to add a little black pepper. And I'm also going to add a little bit of garlic. I like to use the nice big cloves of garlic, even if I'm not going to use it all right away. It just saves time with the peeling of the paper that's on the clove of garlic. And I'm going to use the back of the knife to get a little bit of this garlic. After I get the garlic paper stop sticking to the knife. Anyway, here we go. So I'm actually using the back of the knife and I'm just smashing it. And I don't need this whole clove of garlic for a dish this size. You just don't want a piece of garlic that is so huge that you know it's garlic when you want to really flavor the food. Although it's different when it's raw versus cooked. This raw garlic has sort of a hotness to it that it can be unpleasant, but some people love it, like in a Caesar salad dressing. I'm going to add a couple more ingredients, but not until we're ready to plate it. So what I'm going to do is just put it on the back burner for now, and put that on low and let that go. And then this is the pan I'm going to do my fish in. Now, when you go to the store and you're gonna buy some fish, it's hard to ask them to do this, but you need to ask them, "Can I smell the fish?" So they'll put it on a piece of paper, and when you smell that piece of fish, what you want to smell is nothing. If you smell anything like ammonia, or if you smell like a really fishy smell, you don't want that fish, because cooking is just going to intensify the lack of freshness. So it really makes a lot of it. And I've been doing it for 30 years, asking the butcher behind there, "Can I smell the fish?" And I always feel funny asking, but I can't tell you how many times I'm glad I did. And the times that I haven't, I get home and I open it, I'm like, I just got this horrible piece of fish that I can't use. So anyway, we're gonna throw some butter in there and melt that. Now the thing about cooking fish is you don't want to overcook it, especially certain types of fish, because like salmon, you overcook a piece of salmon and as far as I'm concerned, it's not worth eating. Halibut, same way. Any like the really meaty fishes. I'm just gonna do a nice simple seasoning. I use a little bit more of my truffle salt. Now I'm gonna season this side, and then I'm gonna flip it down on the pan, and then I'm gonna season the other side once it's in the pan. And I'm gonna use a little bit of white pepper, And white pepper, if you're really traditionalist, use the white pepper because it just doesn't show up, but it still has the flavor. So you see the butter's just turning brown in there. That's the perfect time. I'm going to turn it down a little bit, but it's still a pretty good flame. You can see that's a pretty good flame. And I'm going to put down both pieces of fish. And we're just going to let that cook for a little bit. I'm going to finish off my rice pilaf while the fish is going. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put some fresh tomato in there, because the fresh tomato along with the other flavors in there, it's just really going to be a nice combination. You're going to like it. And so I'm just doing some nice diced tomato. Tomatoes are fun new products to buy at the store. Sometimes they seem like they're going to be great, and you get them home and they're not. I'm also going to add a little bit of lemon juice to that as well. Okay, and as you can see, the fish now is just starting to brown on one side. And like I said, I'm going to season the other side now that those are down. A little bit more white pepper. You really want to put salt and pepper on everything. I mean, it's like the #1 rule. Unless it's a dessert, you put salt and pepper on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flip these. I used a larger spatula. I knew these pieces of fish, so sometimes you have to just slide it on there. Now the thing about this cod is you can see it's already coming apart, so we only want to flip it once. If we flipped it a second time, it's going to pretty much fall apart. Now what I'm going to do now is I've got the pan off, and I'm just going to put a lid on it. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause all the heat to stay in the pan. There's still lots of heat in that pan, even though I've turned the flame off. What I'm going to do, just for presentation, is give you a trick with avocado. Now, I've learned my lessons with avocado is you cannot see what's going on inside these guys until you open them up. And so you don't want to rely on a avocado, so always buy a backup avocado. Sometimes even more than that, but the way you can tell that a avocado is ripe is you push the bottom, and if it doesn't give way, if you can almost leave an imprint, it's pretty much ready to eat. So you just go around the seed, and then so it's a nice avocado. There's no brown. The flesh is just perfect. Now, if you want to get this pit out, be careful, because I've seen some people cut themselves with it. But you just hit it with the knife and it'll come out. Now, if you take like a soup spoon